Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg's Genesis class. This is always a wonderful time. We're joined by many people in the Zoom room from all around the planet. We got them from myself in Canada all the way around to India, I see, and north and south. We reach people all over the world. It's always a joy to hear the Torah coming out of the nation of Israel, especially out of Jerusalem, and who better to share it with us than rabbis out of the Noahide World Center. And we're live with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. So, Rabbi Goldberg, it's your class, sir. Please take it away. It's always fun to be with you.
Good evening, everybody from Jerusalem. I hope you're doing well. Daniel, long time no see also. Sorry. Good to see you. Netzach, also good to see you there in behind the screen. And Malay everybody. I will say all the names, but everything is okay. Good to see you also, Lee. Let's dive straight ahead inside. We are mainly in chapter 10 of Genesis. Chapter 10 is giving us 70 names of the nations and also a very unique person. His name is Nimrod. In Hebrew, the name Nimrod is doing a rebellions. The word Nimrod is from the word rebellions. And we know that Nimrod did rebellions against God. We explained this, that it's true also that he wasn't satisfied from the situation in the world. And he was a bit also angry with God who brought the world to this situation. Therefore, he had rebellions also against God. Except for him, that he is not a nation. He was the first king that occupied others underneath him. And he managed to bring people to become his servants. Except for him, all the other names in chapter 10 are names of nations. And if we will look at this in a moment, in a broad way, we will see that we have three main kids for Noach. So, and we have Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham is the people of Egypt, the people of what we call Cush. Basically, we're speaking about Africa, okay? Ham is getting all the land of Africa to live there. Tonight, we don't have people from Africa. It's okay, fine. They're listening on the YouTube, on the Facebook or something. And the Japheth kids, they got all the lands of Europe. Okay, you see it in your head? You can see it in your head. We're speaking about the land of Africa from one side, the land of Europe on the other side. We're even mentioning in chapter 10, Germany. We have here people from Germany. Hi, Shalom. We're mentioning Germany. We're mentioning Italy, places in Europe that Japheth and his sons are getting. And Shem is getting all the Mesopotamia side. The Mesopotamia side is mainly going to Iraq, going towards Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and this region. Even where we have today, the Iran region. All it's called in Hebrew Hasar HaPoreh. I don't remember the name. It's a very...
The Fertile Crescent.
Sorry?
The Fertile Crescent.
Okay. This is the main part of the Shem. And there is one nation that will get the connecting land. And the connecting land of all of those places is Israel. Let's speak about the situation where we don't have airplanes. We don't have airplanes. And we are moving from one place to another through the land. So the place where you can find the connection between Europe from one side, all the region of Africa from the other side, and all of the other region of the Mesopotamia in the third side is Israel. And this is the main side of Israel. Now we were going to see we're going to see, just a moment, it is. We're going to see also one of the most important verses about Shem and his, sorry, it's not here, about Shem and his sons. Just a moment, let me find it. So we spoke about Nimrod, those verses we spoke about, but I want to speak about another very important verse. Verse number 25.
25. And to Eber were born two sons. One was named Peleg, because in his days the earth was divided, and the name of his brother was Joktan.
Okay. And what is the reason why we call it Peleg? Peleg in Hebrew is division. Okay. The word Peleg, we explained more than once that in Hebrew, the name, the word name, the letters of name, okay, it's the same word of purpose in life. So usually, especially in the Torah, when you have names, there's also understanding of the purpose of this person. So the word Peleg in Hebrew is division. And this is what's happening. He is calling him, he's naming him the word Peleg because in his days, the earth was divided. It's the same word, okay? In Hebrew, you can see it also with the same letters. Peleg, ki biyamav niflega. You see, again, Peleg, inside. The same letters, because it's the same word. Now let's read Rashi for a moment for this. It's very important also Rashi here. Let's show Rashi and go back. Okay, please read Rashi here.
25.
Was divided.
Was divided. The tongues became confused, and they were scattered from the valley and were dispersed throughout the entire world. We learned that Eber was a prophet, since he named his son for a future event, i.e., resembles the word meaning dispersed. And we learned in Seder Olam that at the end of his Peleg's days, they were dispersed. For if you say that they were dispersed at the beginning of his days, behold, his brother Joktan was his junior, and he begot many families before that. As it is said in verse 26, and Joktan begot. And only afterwards is it written, and the whole earth was one language. Now, if you say that they were dispersed in the middle of his Peleg's days, this is not so, because Scripture does not come to make these things obscure, but to explain. Hence, you learn that in the year of Peleg's death, they were dispersed. And Joktan, because he was humble and considered himself small, therefore he merited to raise all these families.
Okay, so what we see here someone who is a prophet. And what is the main prophecy of his prophet? Is that he is upset, he is annoyed that the families got spread over. And he is hoping, that they will all become together back like it was before the time that we were all spread over. And we're speaking here about Eber. Eber is the son of Arpachshad, okay? And we know that this is related to the sons of Shem. So the dynasty of Shem have also the prophecy. And the main part of the prophecy is that we want to become all together back as unity, as one big family, or say it like that. And this is what we see here in those words. Now, what is the land that they are taking, this family? The land that they are taking is the land that is managing to hold all the parts together. The part of Europe with connection with the part of the Mesopotamia side, and also the part where the Egyptians and all of the what we call Africa side. The only land that is related to all of us. And this is also, we're speaking here about Abel. So let's jump for a moment to, I didn't organize it. Let's jump for a moment to Genesis, where Joseph is explaining from where he came. From where he came. I think we mentioned this chapter, this verse, but we'll mention it again. I think it's here. You know what we'll see. It's a bit more far. No, come on. Let's continue. Joseph, when he's speaking with the servants of Pharaoh, he's saying, I was stolen from the land of Aber. Again, Aber, this is the man who have the prophecy that he wants to reunite everybody together. And the land of Aber is the land of Israel, okay, where everybody is managing to get reunited, or the point where everybody can pass or control from one place to another. And we know that, by the way, when you will come to visit Israel, hopefully soon, because the corona will finish here, will go away from here. So you will manage to see also, we will show you places where we can see from very long time ago that those are the places where people came from the Mesopotamia area, from India, and from here they went to Europe, from here they went to the Africa region. This is the land where everybody got connected, and from there it spread all over the world. There's another one. If there are any questions till now, maybe look on the questions and tell me if there's something that we need to refer, please. I want to go to a very important part of I will say, moral understanding of what's happening here in this chapter, okay, in chapter 10. And for that, I want to jump back to 4 verses, 5 verses that we spoke about them, and we didn't really explain them too much. So please, Dan, read verses 10 to 14. We're speaking about chapter 2. 10 to 14, yes.
10. And a river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it separated and became 4 heads. The name of one is Pishon, that is the one that encompasses all the land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. There is the crystal and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon, that is the one that encompasses all the land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Tigris. That is the one that flows to the east of Assyria. And the fourth river, that is the Euphrates.
Okay. So I want to explain this in a bit of how do you call it? It's not an explanation of places. It's more an explanation of ideas. Okay. It's very important to understand what I'm going to say now, because we're going to learn here a principle, but it's not explanations of places, it's more explanations of ideas. And we have here basically, first of all, to understand the word river in Hebrew. Again, we're going with the names. The word river in Hebrew, it's also the light. Nahar v'lashon nehara. Okay, the light. The light is going out from Eden. So we speak about 4 main ideologies that are going out in this world, that are leading the people in this world. And there are all sorts of people who are going. One is going to this ideology, and another one is going to another ideology. And let's see for a moment, what are the 4 ideologies that we're speaking here. The first one is the Pishon, what we call Pishon, that is around the place where everything is the gold. There is the gold, okay? And the gold there is very good, okay? The crystal of the onyx and stone. We're speaking about people, okay, who are going, that they think, or they're running all the time after the wellness and the gold and the wealthy, because they're trying to build up or to bring inside to their homes a lot of money and a lot of gold and they think that this will bring them all the happiness in life. This is one set of people. Okay. The second thing is what we call the Gichon. The Gichon is around the Kush. Kush is related with Africa. This is the place where everybody is going through, where it's very hot. Now, when I'm speaking about hot, I'm not speaking about the sun giving something hot. I'm speaking about the people, or the kind of people who are going after the sexuality side of the world. Okay, that everything is very with the side of very how do you say it in English? I'm trying to be polite. Okay, but those are the people that the warm situation of the body and everything else, this is what is guiding them. This is how they look about this thing. The third one is going through the Assyria. Assyria in Hebrew is Ashur. Now we know already that the word Ashur, this is the place where Nimrod started. How exactly Nimrod did all of these things? It was related with a lot of what we call authority, with a lot of becoming very honorable. This is, I'm the king here. I want a lot of people around me. I want that things will be. Those are people who are looking for a lot of those thing of honor and authority, and looking for honoring the people who honor them. It's with a lot of war, with a lot of border. This is the third kind of people who in this world. So if I will summarize, we're speaking about three main people in this world, okay? Three main categories. I will do it more, it's not, again, don't look at only at places, but mainly it's the, I will say, the culture that came out from Europe with the thing of all of the money and all of the wellness that we have, and the culture that came out from the side of the Egyptian side or the African side, and the culture that came out from the Ashur side, from Nimrod side, with a healthy. And the fourth one is Brit. What is Brit? Brit is the side that is related with the people who are, it's like the fruits, okay? The fruits. Now, the word fruits, if you will start from the beginning of the Psalms, we will see that the righteous is doing good fruits by his actions. This is something that is not related to those three things of wellness, richness, jealousy, and honoring. Those things are in Pirkei Avot we're saying, taking people out from the world. And those are mainly the three sons of Noah, except for the one that we saw before, that is trying to Peleg, and from there they will become also at the end the dynasty of Abraham, who is trying to reconnect all the world together. Because if you're running after jealousy, or you're running after, the wellness is bringing jealousy, and the authority and the honoring is bringing a lot of war and murder. And the thing that is related to the lust and to all of the part of the how much I want men and women, all of the sexuality side, it's bringing all sorts of the that you're running for nothing for your life. Those three things are taking out people out from the world, from this world. And there is also the third way of life, where it's at the end it will concentrate on Abraham, that is the son of Abraham. And this is why we call ourselves also the Hebrew people from Abel, where what we want to bring to the world is something that is much more pure, without of this richness that bringing to jealousy, without of this authority that bringing or honoring that bring to war and murder, and without of this part of the lust that is bringing a lot of the people with the, like acting like animals. This is more or less, if we're looking at chapter 10 in a view upwards. I'm not going to go to all the details in chapter 10. We will continue on next week with chapter 11 to continue on with what's happening. Because I'm very strict tonight with the timing, I will look now on the chat with the questions. If people have any questions, I will refer to them, and then we'll bring it I will pass the lesson to Lee. Okay. What people are saying to you, thank you. Okay. Mr. Lee, Fogel, thank you very much. Okay, fair enough.
I asked two questions. I made two comments, Rabbi Chaim, in the chat, and I think this is what people are saying thank you about. My first comment was about the name Nimrod. You said he was an individual, whereas the others were nations. But if you look at the etymology, if you look at the meaning of his name, it's in the plural, Nimrod, versus I will rebel. So this is interesting. What does this mean? My second question is, you said, names, it's a general, insight into names in the Bible, in the Tanakh, that they carry meaning, that they carry the purpose of the individual, sometimes their philosophy, how they live life, and what they, what they want to influence in the world. And maybe this is also a hint to us that when we, we have our own names, and when we, pass on names to our children. So, God forbid, I saw some cases in the news of parents naming their children, names that shouldn't be repeated. That the names that we also pass on need to carry purpose. So I received a tradition from my rabbi that also what's going on in the world at a particular time when a child is born, you can connect it somehow to the child's name. So we had a baby boy born, and we called him Judah, Yehuda, because now it's also the time of Hanukkah, Judah the Maccabee, etc. So I thought this was connected to what you said.
It's true. We spoke about this few times already when we showed it. And also the words Shem, Ham, and Japheth are also with a lot of meanings. Because we explained this, I will say this again. When we're speaking about Ham, in Hebrew, the word Ham is related to the fire, to what we explained a moment ago, that is related, ta'ava v'zima, li.
Desire, physical desire.
It's very hard to translate this word. It's related to the sexual side, but in the lowest level, like the animals. And
base desire.
There are people like that in our world. Okay?
Would that be something like lust or promiscuity?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Again, say the word.
Promiscuity.
Lust.
Lust. As in,
Lust.
Lust.
Loudness. Loudness.
No.
No.
Lust.
You're thinking
Lust.
lewdness.
Lust.
Yeah.
L-U-S-T.
Yes.
L-U-S-T. Lust. Yes, L-U-S-T. Lust. Okay, fine, exactly. So the Ham, the word Ham is coming from this understanding that he is also getting the Africa side. This is him. And the word Japheth is related to the word beauty. Now, beauty is something very good, but it's very power. When I'm saying power, I mean it could be taken to a good side and it could be taken to a bad side. It's something that it's more or less in the middle. And the word shed is getting from the word rocket stone, that you can build up on this. You can build up the world from the word shed. And this is at the end, okay, of the day, of the dynasty of the shed, will bring up Abraham, and the world of the Hebrew nation, that after 4,000 years maybe, but they are managing to bring inside all the main ideology of one God, of we all can be connected, know what the most important side of life, not to murder people, not to occupy people, all those things, every seventh day of the week, rest for a moment and remember that God created this world. A lot of things that 2,000, 4,000 years ago were not in this world at all. Nobody thought about them. But when you look at this in a very large scale of 4,000 years, suddenly you see that this is the foundation of our humanity, how to live in a correct way. So those are three words, three names that also have meaning of the purpose of life, what they will bring to the world.
Wow. Good stuff, Rabbi. Now, Rabbi, just for our notes, the word, I love, first of all, how you brought out how Eber was a prophet. The term Hebrew, does that not come from Eber? Like Hebrew, I've heard it means of Eber. And you connected that even with Joseph down in Egypt. That's beautiful.
Hebrew is coming from Abraham, of course. It's true. Hebrew is coming from Abraham. This is why also I prefer this than Jewish. Jewish is coming from Judah. Now what happened? We had two exiles. We need to learn the Bible and we will see. Okay, in the Kings part 2, it says that I will return back to you in a few minutes. Okay, I'm sorry. We have two exiles in Israel. The first one did an exile to 10 tribes. This was the side of Israel. The second exile was 110, 120 years later on, only for the Judah people, and they went to Babylon. And they were called the Judah people, Jewish people. This is the same wording. Now that we came back, we didn't came back only as a Judah people. We came back as the Israel people. Okay? But we didn't came back only as an Israel people. We came back as an Abel people. So we are Hebrew people. This is the main roots of us, the Hebrew people. It's all related.
Excellent. Yeah. Beautiful. I think the world needs to understand that because, the term anti-Semitic, does that not link to the word Shem as well?
Yeah, exactly. You're saying the right words. Anti-Semitism it's anti-Shem. Anti-Sem. Okay, Shem, the word Sem, anti, I'm against the Shem. So I'm against the Jewish people. It's the most funniest thing is that there are people in the Israel tribes, okay, what we call the Arab tribes, part of them are the Israel, and they're also anti-Semitic, anti-Shemite, okay, they're against Shem, but they are themselves also from the dynasty of Shem. So this is the most, I will say, weird situation, but this is how it's happening. I will also answer Michaela. Michaela, I have a very good question. If to change your name, the answer is no. And let me say something, Michaela, okay? Listen good for that. The word Michael is of the word of the angel of the Hebrew nation. And when you, as a Michaela, this is part of how you got it connected with the Hebrew nation. Because, okay, you don't need to change anything. No one needs to change. If you will start to dig inside, you will find a way how people are related. And in Hebrew, the word Michael is also explaining that מצוי כישורים אישיים למצוינות. לא חשבת על זה אף פעם, נכון? מיכאל, מצוי כישורים אישיים למצוינות. Every letter there is expressing that you have the possibility to take out the full potential of yourself. Okay? So don't change your name. It's a marvelous name. Excellent, you know? And you will ask yourself, for example, Israel for here, that is sitting from India, very late at night there. Very good. Very nice. His daughter knows how to sing songs in Hebrew, okay, even though she never were in Israel. And it's related because her father's name is Israel. So it's all related. So, you know, everything is connected to them. Just you need to open your mind. Don't need to be ashamed. You will be surprised to see how much your parents thought in the right way, even though they didn't thought that it wasn't on purpose, but it went fine. Okay. Also with Netzach, with Daniel, you can speak about everybody. We said it's okay. Yes, I'm moving. I'm unfortunately, I will be here, but I will be in and forth, okay? Because I have something I'm dealing in this week in a very complicated situation. But thank God, everything will be okay. You know what? I will say one word. As you can see, last week and this week, my parents are not here. Okay, Dan, close it a moment from the internet in the world.
Okay, they're muted, Rabbi. They can't hear you. They can see, but they're muted.
Both of them got coronavirus. My father in the hospital. He is not in the best shape. And my mother, she needs a lot of support. So I'm here now in her place, and I'm helping her. And this is why I need now to go outside and inside to the lesson. So I'm apologizing, but we did all the effort, all of us, to continue with the lesson, and we all praying that we will get over this coronavirus.
Amen.
Liz, now Lee will continue.
Now, Rabbi, I think you're still in share mode as well. Share screen mode.
Yes? No, I stopped it.
I think it stopped. I just started my share screen, Dan.
Okay, very good.
Why not? So I'm
Okay.
closing, I'm muting myself. I will try to listen as much as possible. But I'm going also to help here. And I will be back and forth. That's a Chali. Okay.
Toda, Rabbi Chaim. So I'll share in his prayer that his family and all of you and your loved ones should be well. So hey everybody, thanks again for sharing your learning with me. Lee here, and we're continuing on our learning in Brit Shalom, Rabbi Sherky's practical application of Noahide laws, daily living for Noahides. We're finding ourselves now, just a quick recap for those who haven't been with us, in the section 2 that I call Man and God, and in chapter 3, Knowledge of God, which deals mostly with different laws of idolatry, where we should be placing our beliefs and where we shouldn't be placing our beliefs, and so on. We had a good question here from Daniel today. I hope we can get to that clause later on in the chapter. So far we've spoken about focusing our energies to the one creator of the world, and not sharing that relationship really with any other entity, created or creator. And we talked about different avenues, different corollaries of that idea. We spoke about some practical prohibitions, certain practices, whether one is intending to do them for ritual worship or not. One practical question that came up last week was about burning incense. We came to the conclusion that would be forbidden, even if one did not intend to worship through that incense, because those sticks that we showed last week, those are actually still used today, to this very day, in idol worship. Some other things that we spoke about, praying to any other entities. We spoke about the idea of praying in the merit of the righteous, in the merit of the tzaddikim. So, the custom where certain people will go pray at graves of certain righteous people in their merit, etc., but that the prayer is always directed towards God, and other such customs. And I think we ended off on clause number 9, with certain acts also carrying punishment. Okay, so there are, in addition to these, there is kind of an expanded form here in clause 10. I'll just increase the font size. Can everybody see the text? Is it good size?
Crystal clear.
Great. Okay, so here in clause 10, we're expanding what we said above, and we're saying that any form of idol worship that incurs punishment in a Beit Din, in a rabbinical court of law, also incurs punishment in a Noahide court of law as well. One concept that I was looking into the sources here that Rabbi Sherky brought, and this will actually be brought as a separate clause later on, but this includes somebody who also incites others to idol worship. Basically, somebody who is evangelizing to a religion of idolatry is included in clause 10 as well.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting to hear. Certainly a tremendous amount of effort going on in other religions, as I think Rabbi Chaim has mentioned in the past. This is something that sets Judaism and Torah learning apart from many other religions. We don't really go out seeking to convert others to be Jews. And as we've tried to stress in the past, I remember having conversations like this with Paul, trying to maintain everybody's uniqueness in serving God with this certain foundation of the Noahide laws, etc. Okay, so clauses 11 and 12, I'm just going to read them together because I think they're connected, and I just have a quick note about them. Okay, so it reads, the prohibition of idol worship includes worship of any power, whether spiritual or physical, whether exists in reality or is a product of the imagination alone. And clause 12, included in this prohibition is worship of any human being or other force in any of the manners described above in the previous clauses, even if the worshiper believes that this human being or other force is not created, but is a creator itself. One idea that came to mind, excuse me, is what I think is to an extent made a god out of today, which is the forces of nature. Okay, this is it's a physical force, but right, we have like the laws of nature, right, which are this kind of non-physical thing influencing the physical world, and that certainly in certain scientific circles, speaking about the laws of nature, it's like speaking about something that's something that cannot be undone. What we're talking about here in Noahidism and also certainly in Judaism, the Torah is preaching is that there is one who created those laws. And so in certain moments, obviously, this should not be the norm, but in certain moments, the one who created those laws can suspend them, right? This is what gives way for miracles, as we see throughout the Bible, and as I think we can see to an extent in our own day with the Jewish people returning to their homeland and beginning to use their megaphone to speak the word of God to the world. So this was just an idea that I had reading these. I see we already have some questions popping up from the chat. Nations and I would get time, please. Okay, what should be our approach to non-Noahides with regard to proselytism? Can you explain your question, Michael? Like if somebody comes to you to try to convert you, is this the question?
The other way around.
Oh, if you should be going to,
Okay.
Meaning if you should be speaking to others about Noahidism?
Yes, exactly, and try to convince them.
I think this came up also to an extent. I believe it was Travis who spoke about his family. I think to an extent, I'm not sure. I think it would be a blessed enterprise to start speaking about this in certain circles and to try to influence those around us. But we have to be careful, particularly with those closer to us. Okay, and now we're kind of waking up to the truths of the Torah, and we see those around us adhering to ideas that for maybe a very long time we also held dear. We're not kind of coming in with ammunition and gunning down previous ways of life. We need to be very careful and sensitive to the sensitivities of those around us. So, I think it kind of matters who you're speaking to, but generally speaking, yes, I think this is something that we should be. I'm not sure if we should be on as they say, a soapbox preaching out to the world, but I think that every interaction that we have, God puts us in that interaction for a particular purpose, and you and you all, and I think myself included, we can see ourselves as to a degree emissaries of the Word of God. And trying to bring the world to fruition. It's a great question. I hope I answered. It's a great question. If something should be more systematized, something like the late Rabbi of Chabad, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, who kind of sent out emissaries to all the world to set up booths and to set up schools and to start teaching. It's a great question. I'm sure that Rabbi Chaim and certainly Rabbi Sherky have what to say about this, so I can see if they have anything in mind. To a degree, we also spoke about it in the past. Certainly with those who are already beginning to take interest in these ideas, only influencing that, only strengthening that, setting up study groups together, setting up praying groups together, certain holidays, etc. Okay, so Daniel, I think that at least the form that we spoke about last week, Daniel's question is, it's not okay to light incense at all then? I think it's a great question, practically speaking, and I can ask Rabbi Chaim, maybe we can reach out to Rabbi Shirky practically, which one would be forbidden and which one would be permitted. The one specifically that we spoke about last week is this kind of brown long stick that's put on a certain holder, and it's used, for a pleasant aroma. This particular form of incense, also, though it's used in this exact form in worship, if I'm not mistaken, in Hinduism. I'm not sure if in other traditions as well, but because it's used specifically in this form in idolatrous worship, so this specific form would be forbidden. It's interesting to hear practically if this includes other things. Okay. All right, so we spoke about an idea that I had, the forces of nature. Okay, or other forces that we see as kind of separate from God. Another idea, okay, we spoke also about medicine. I think we spoke about it to a degree last week. Always remembering that the one placing the tools and placing the wisdom in the world is the creator at the end of the day. So even, we're all praying for the vaccine to have a good impact on the world, not have side effects and to get us all out of this mess. But to remember that the one who sent the disease to the world will also send its cure. Okay, clause 13. The belief that an individual or a nation is being led by some power, whether physical or spiritual, which exists on a lower level than the all-encompassing creator, is not prohibited, as long as no worship is associated with said belief. Obviously, that's the stress here. I think what's being referred to here is it's the concept of sarim in Hebrew, right? That each nation has what I think might be translated into English as kind of guardian angel. But basically, that God kind of sets up certain processes, certain fates, if you will, for each nation, and those parameters in the overall divine plan kind of set up the framework for each of the nations. It doesn't mean that each individual doesn't have free will. It just means that, each nation kind of plays an overarching role in the overall design, in the overall divine plan, and that those plans or those processes or programs, which you might refer to as angels, they're kind of leading each of the nations. Again, with the stress being that we don't forget who set up those processes in the first place. Excuse me, clause 14. Whoever believes there is any God ruling over the entire world other than the one creator of all is called a heretic, literally the denier of the root truth. What's called in Hebrew, it's also referred to in the Passover Haggadah, kofer ba'ikar. Okay, this is like the all-encompassing truth, or the root truth as it's written here. Okay, a couple of more practical clauses down here, and I think one here that touches, it's later that Daniel asked. Okay, clause 15, being present at or passively participating in idol worship ceremonies is not forbidden to Noahides. Okay, obviously, I think one of the more we have these conversations, the more you're all forcing me to think about each of the clauses practically. So I'm kind of coming up with different scenarios in which each of these can speak to you in your everyday life. Okay, so one I think practical example here is let's say a Christian ceremony or something, some sort of Christian prayer service. If being invited to that, obviously by family or friends, a business colleague or something, Okay, as they're saying, being present, it's not forbidden. Sorry, I just see this thing flashing, so I want to see if anything pertinent to these clauses before I move on. The instance of the rocks using Catholicism also don't mean to interrupt. Okay, the capital for each nation. Okay, so these are broader ideas. I think maybe if we have time at the end, we'll come back to them. Okay, clause 16. A Noahide who is forced to engage in idol worship or is likely to be endangered for refusing to do so is permitted to participate and is not obligated to give up his life to avoid said idol worship. Okay, this is obviously quite different from the law for Jews. Okay, where things regarding, you're right, we spoke about, Rabbi Chaim spoke about the kind of what are they called, like the 3 cardinal sins for the Torah for Jews, and certainly idol worship being one of them. It's like, this is one that you don't go over. There's interesting clause here in the footnotes that Rabbi Shirky brings, which is, first of all, this is with regard to not necessarily an entire person's body. There's a footnote brought here that this also applies even to a part of the body. If God forbid somebody is threatened, I don't know, I'll break your hand if you don't worship this idol, or if you don't participate in this idol worship. And there are also opinions that this doesn't only include the person's body, it could also include a person's livelihood. Now, also trying to kind of put myself in practical thinking, let's say somebody is invited to a ceremony of idol worship by one's business colleague, okay, by one's boss. Okay, you said, I'm not going to invite you to a ceremony, and it's clearly falls under idol worship. But not participating. I'm trying to think of a practical ceremony, but either way, not participating, maybe it'll rub the person the wrong way, or be perceived negatively, and could actually come to affect a person's livelihood. So according to that opinion, it's a difference of opinion according to the sages. So at the end of the day, the person would need to consult with his Noahide sage or with his rabbi for the practical thing to do in that particular situation. But at least according to that opinion, the person could participate, because it could bring upon also financial, monetary harm in addition to what we said, which is physical harm. That's a great question. The question is if a Noahide can visit a church, cathedral, or a mosque, a Muslim mosque, as part of sightseeing. Is there any prohibition if there is an entrance fee? That is a really, really good question with regards to the entrance fee. I think we're going to touch on the first part of the question, which is visiting and kind of appreciating the place as a kind of work of art or a work of culture, as opposed to necessarily a religious or participating religiously. The second part of the question is also really, really interesting, and I don't have an answer, so I'll write it down. I'll keep the chat, and I'll get that later. Okay. I love your questions. They bring things. You can see that you're taking the word seriously, because it brings the law straight down to the practical level, which I love. So good for you. Clause 17. Clause 17, it is forbidden to incite others to engage in idol worship. Okay, so we spoke about this earlier as something that it's also incurs punishment in a Noahide court of law and also in a rabbinic court of law. Okay, this is, as I said, idea of evangelism, converting others to, inciting others or converting others to idol worship. Okay, we're going to get to an interesting section here, which includes proper conduct, so things that are not necessarily required or expressly prohibited, but are good, good advice. But we'll finish up these two clauses here. Clause 18 reads, "Whoever prophesies in the name of idol worship and commands people accordingly is in violation of Noahide law." Trying to think of a practical application of this law, but I think it's quite clear. Okay, now clause number 19, very interesting, and I think it has big ramifications. It is forbidden to erect a monument, to plant a tree, or to construct a building designated for idol worship, even if the one building or planting does not engage in said idol worship. Now, I think now that I'm thinking about it, Netzach, I think your question might even fall under the clause number 19, because what's the situation that I thought of? What if you have an architect, or an architect, and he has a project? Somebody comes to him and he says, "Please come build me this church. Come build me this Hindu temple." Okay, this is the person's livelihood, but it's expressly going to be this place is expressly designated for idol worship. So I think under clause 19, this would be forbidden. And additionally, it's possible that your question, Netzach, about the entrance fee could also fall under this. Again, I can ask, practically speaking, to get a final answer. Daniel asks, is it permitted to worship idols if someone threatened to harm family members or burn your house down or break your car windows? Okay, so Daniel, I think the second part of what you asked, Daniel asks, is it permitted to worship idols if someone threatens your family or threatens to burn your house down or break your car windows? Okay, so I think the second part of your question falls under the opinion that we said in I'll just go back here to clause to clause 16. Okay, we said in clause 16 there is some of the opinions hold that this danger also includes financial monetary danger. So according to those opinions, obviously a person we know should get a practical answer from the person from the Noahide sage or from the rabbi that he consults with for a practical answer. But this would include, according to those opinions, okay, God forbid, a person's house being burned down or breaking car windows. With regards to a person's family, that's a really good question. I think it might also be included in that opinion, but we can ask. God forbid that any of you should be in such a situation. Hans asks, clause 15, being present, as we said here, just reviewing, being present or passively participating is not forbidden. Okay, so Hans says clause 15 is good to know. I interpret it means that being a Noahide, one can still participate in church activities with friends and neighbors, taking into account that in most places there are no Noahide temples to congregate in. Okay, well, I would say two things to this, I think, Hans. Number one, as we said, either being present, okay, to attend these gatherings, etc., with one's family and friends would not be forbidden, or it even says you're passively participating. So you're right in that respect. Although taking into account that in most places there are no Noahide temples to congregate in, so I would use that as a call to arms or a call to action. As we said in the past, right? A statement that I love from Rabbi Hillel in the Ethics of the Fathers. Okay, it says basically, literally, it says, in a place where there are no men, strive to be a man. And what it means is, in a place where nobody's taking initiative, where you see that there is a hole, go and fill the hole. Go and fill the puzzle piece. So this could be a great opportunity. And this is something that we also encouraged in the past. This could be a great opportunity to start building a community like this for praying, for studying. Okay, thank you very much. Netzach said, thank you very much. Advice against visiting conditions, but I did not want to go over this stream. Okay, what would be passively participating? Great question, Daniel. Like if we went to the Mormon church and they asked me to pray to Jesus, so I closed my eyes and didn't pray, what would that be it? Okay, it's a great question. I'll ask, practically speaking. And if somebody comes to you and are they basically, this almost sounds like they're forcing you. They asked me to pray to Jesus. I don't know if it's customary in such Mormon churches or elsewhere, but did they come up to the individual and they outright they just went over there to visit? Okay, so fine. So it's nobody's like either literally or figuratively holding a gun to your head. So I don't think that we would want, even if you feel bad, I don't think we would want to participate in such ceremonies. I think I can ask about the first part of your question, what it means, what he meant specifically about passively participating. Asking some awesome questions tonight. Okay, so Dan, if I can ask you, I'll try at the end. I don't know if maybe if you can like save the chat file and send it to me. I just don't want to interrupt the class in the meanwhile. I don't know if that's an option, Dan, or if you can even just leave the meeting open, and I'll try to copy the chat text, so that way I don't miss everybody's questions. Fine. I hope Dan can hear me. Okay, so we left off on clause number 19 about erecting monuments, planting trees, constructing buildings that are specifically designated for idol worship. And again, one of the practical situations that I was thinking about is somebody who's, okay, I don't know, even a cleaner, okay, somebody who cleans a building, somebody, okay, you have planting, okay, planting a tree, somebody who's, does planting trees, or, a gardener, etc. So I think this has pretty wide ramifications. Okay, so now we move on. I'll just read here the introduction. Rabbi Shirky says, to proper conduct. If I'm invited to attend a wedding in a Catholic church, what should I do? I think based on Michael asks about attending a wedding in a Catholic church. I think based on what we said, there would be room to permit it, because it's not like you're actively participating. You're being present. Okay, you're not participating directly in any idol worship. You're also, we said, want to support your family, and we need to behave very wisely in our awakening to the Torah. We don't want to do anything that's forbidden. At the same time, we don't want to throw people away. Sorry, Travis wanted to ask a question. Okay, so let's see. Idols for the obelisk. Yeah, I'm sorry, Travis. It's just your question is a good one, but it's a little bit. It requires me to do a little bit more thinking and a little bit more this. So if you'll just permit me, we'll try to address it at the end. If you could try, don't let me forget. Okay, so proper conduct. Many matters associated with idol worship are forbidden to Jews in order to distance themselves from it. And we spoke about this in the past, that a lot of these ideas, okay, it's not only a certain acts that are forbidden, we also want to do certain things that disconnect us from that way of life and then from those ideas in general. Okay, so such matters were not explicitly forbidden to Noahides, yet these guidelines, as described below, are fitting for one to follow to the greatest possible extent. Okay, so again, this is something that's not like a strict, as you say, like the strict letter of the law, but this is something that is proper for a person to internalize and to try to adhere to as much as possible. Okay, so what are we talking about? Clause number 20. As you see that we're running through this pretty quickly. Well, we'll see how far we get. Okay, clause number 20 reads, refrain from reading books of idol worship. However, it is appropriate for Noahide sages who give instructions in these matters to read such books. Okay, obviously, whoever is going to be instructing others about exactly what to do and exactly what is considered idol worship or is not needs to be him or herself, well versed in this. I think in general it would be a good idea, and this is another one of the teachings that's brought in the ethics of the fathers, aseh lecharav, okay, that each person, should have either a Noahide sage or a rabbi that they turn to with practical questions. Rabbi, do you think that this is a good book to read? Do you think that this would help me in my worship of God or not? Is it going to confuse me? Maybe this is important for me to learn because it will help me to understand my family and friends around me and how I can reach them better. As I say, like batteries not included, or contact your local Orthodox rabbi for practical questions on each particular book. But as a general rule, refraining from those books. Okay, fine. So Hans is talking about again about the church services. We're swearing allegiance to anything that has to do with that participation. Okay, basically along the lines that we said. Talking to Dan, not to me. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dan. I was referring to the host, Dan. I think his name is Dan, right? The host, Dan, and Okay, yeah, sorry. I was just asking if it's possible to either keep the meeting open so I can copy the chat text, or if you have a way to send it to me, so that way I don't miss the questions that people asked. I just don't want to stop in the middle. If I missed some, I just don't want to stop the class in the middle to write down. Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, I just don't want to miss people's questions. Great practical questions, and that I can honestly say that I have no problem saying I don't have the answer to all of them. Okay, so clause 20 about books. Clause 21, it's fitting to refrain from praising idol worship, and even more so from decorating a display of it or lighting candles to honor it or engaging in any such related activity. All this concerns activities not explicitly constituting idol worship. However, activities explicitly constituting idol worship are entirely forbidden by Noahide law. Okay, so if we take one of the examples that we encountered above, I don't know, let's say the burning incense, okay? It wouldn't even be proper to say, wow, the incense that those people are burning to pray to their idols, it smells fantastic. Or, I wish I had some of those. Again, this is all coming under the umbrella of wanting to distance ourselves from idolatrous ways and ideas. I'm just trying to think about how this comes into play with, let's say, Christmas decorations. Okay, so it says even more so from decorating a display of it, lighting candles to honor it. That's a good question. Okay, thoughts to ponder. Okay, this is something that also appears in Jewish law, but again, this is being kind of expanded broadly as good advice for all Noahides, all those wanting to connect themselves to the one true God. It's best to refrain from cutting one's hair and beard in the manner of idol worshippers, and from tattooing or disfiguring the body in any way as they do. I can tell you that from looking into some of the rabbinical sources, right, there's a biblical prohibition for Jews to tattoo or disfigure their body, and I think we spoke about this in the past. It just bears repeating. Yeah, okay, one of the this is what's called a chok in the Bible in the Torah. It's what's called I think it translated into English as a supra rational law. A law that is it's not irrational. It's not that it doesn't have any reason to it, but it has reason that it is above our understanding. Okay, so for example, also like the dust or the ashes rather of the red cow. Okay, this is a law that the reason for it was not explicitly written. It's not explicitly written. Okay, so too the tattooing. But one of the reasons brought in the rabbinical sources is distancing ourselves from the ways of idol worshippers. Okay, and one can ask, so how does this kind of connect to today? Because you don't really see that many idol worshippers who are explicitly doing this in order to worship their gods. But I think I mentioned this in the past. I think there is what to be said about, even in English today, tattooing is referred to as body art. I think there is what to be said about what is, I think, also a Greek idea of kind of making the body into a god, worshiping the body. Okay, so we're not, the Torah is not against at all. To be clear, it's not against a physical activity and taking care of one's health. But, the body is a tool. It's a tool that we have in order to worship God and to do great things in this world. It's not an end in and of itself. And therefore, using it as a kind of statue or to put it on display, it's also something that we want to distance from, even if it's not used today explicitly in idol worship. Okay, the same applies to what we said above with the hair and the tattooing. The same applies to making a bald spot on the head or gashes on the body as a sign of mourning for the dead. Again, these are all ancient idolatrous customs. This is also an interesting one. Okay, if coins fall from someone's pockets next to an idol used for idol worship, one should not bend down to pick them up. Rather, one should sit down and then collect the coins. Obviously, the point being made here is that it shouldn't even be seen to others, certainly not to yourself, it shouldn't even be seen to others that you are praying to this idol or that you are showing it some sort of honor. And you can begin to see the level of aptitude, the level of self-awareness that the Torah asks of its followers. Okay, your coins fall on the ground. It happens by accident. You're in the middle of a conversation with a friend, or you're on the phone or something. Coins fall on the ground. You need to have the presence of mind to now stop and to ask yourself, how is this going to affect me spiritually, and how is this going to be perceived by those around me? This is something that I have seen throughout, as a common thread throughout Torah wisdom. This heightened level of self-awareness that I think also there's volumes being written and spoken about it in today's psychology, but I think it has ancient roots, as you can see. Talk about later. Okay. Sorry, I want to, let's try to maybe even finish the chapter. And if I can come to the questions, I'll try to get to them as well. I apologize, Daniel. Okay, clause 23. I know we're getting through a lot here, so I'll repeat what I mentioned in the past, which is that I highly recommend for you all to try to get a copy of Brit Shalom, either digitally or physically, so that you can follow along with what we're reading, so you can go over it after we read it, so you can go over it before we read it and come ready with questions and fire it away, etc. I encourage you all to have a copy at home. Okay, clause 23. It's best to refrain from eating and drinking food and drink that was used in idol worship, and likewise to avoid eating fruit from a tree planted by idol worshippers with the intent of worshiping said tree. Interesting. I don't know how prevalent this is today. Interesting. The same applies to deriving benefit from gold or silver used to coat anything used in idol worship, and even to the ashes remaining after objects used in idol worship were incinerated. You can see here, to the extent that we go to distance ourselves from these ways of from this way of life, from these ideas. It would be interesting to consider if this includes the food and the drink, if this includes something that was used in a religious ceremony. I'm not sure. This is a good question. I don't mean like if it was specifically used in the idol worship, but if, I don't know, let's say you have a lunch at a church or something. Would this be considered as being used in the idol worship? Would you be able to derive benefit? This is a good question. Okay, and the gold and the silver also. I think this raises a good question. Used to coat anything used in idol worship. Okay, I think this is a great things to research. Suggest if Noahites are having idol worshiping names, what should we do? Okay, we got Yaakov Yaakovi asks about names. If we have names that are hinting at idol worship, we spoke about this earlier in the lesson. I think the general idea from Rabbi Chaim was we're not asking people to go out and change their names. Many names today, I don't know, just take in the Christian tradition, even many names of the Christian tradition today have biblical roots, and there's ways to interpret them to for them to be fitting and proper, even in Torah Judaism. But I would add on to, if you would let me, I would add on to what Rabbi Chaim said. If a person feels so inclined that they can look into this. But also, even personally speaking, again, here we need to be very careful about how this is perceived by our family. Okay, I have a name which is not so common in the religious community here in Israel, Lee. It's not very common, but my parents gave me this name, and I don't want to disrespect them. So it's not it's not a name that has necessarily bad connotation. So I for the meantime, I'm not touching my name out of respect for my parents. Again, as we said, we need to behave very wisely, even in our passion for the God of Israel. Should we avoid any store selling meat that is sacrificed for the Islamic community? We have these types of butchers here, some chain stores. Okay, well, this raises a great tangential question or idea. Travis Travis asks about buying buying meat from a store that we know that they also sell meat sacrificed for the Islamic community. So it's important to note that Islam is not considered idolatry. Is a famous idea from the Rambam. While they may not necessarily worship the God of Israel in exactly the Jewish way, they worship one God, and there is no division in that worship. And therefore, it's permitted for a Jew to step foot into a mosque, okay, where it's generally forbidden for a Jew to step foot into a church. Okay, so I think based on that, Travis, it would be permissible. And I think that even, let's say there's meat that is specifically designated for a certain church. Okay, let's say, I don't know, there's a store in the town, and you know that this store they have like an arrangement with the local church, and most of the meat they sell there. I'm not sure that even this would be expressly forbidden, because it's not like you're directly supporting the church. You're buying meat. You're buying meat from this business. Okay, great. I hope this helped. Okay, clause 23. Okay, I think we're actually reaching. We actually have a little bit more left of this chapter, so I'm not sure if we'll finish it tonight, but if you'll permit me, we'll keep going. We'll try to get through, because we have your questions are fascinating and they're very practical, but there's so much that we want to cover. So let's see how we can balance. Okay, clause 24. Clause 24 says, one may not make an idol for oneself or for others to worship. And as Daniel was asking to me in chat earlier, no object used in idol worship should remain in one's possession. Okay, this is especially what you were asking before about it having certain objects of idol worship in one's home. Okay, so I think this is something that Rabbi Shirky says should be adhered to the greatest possible extent. Okay, again, going back to Travis, sorry to pick on you, Travis, but going back to Travis's example, okay, let's say you have a young man or woman who's getting close to Noahidism and wants to distance themselves from idol worship, but they're living in their parents' home. Are they going to now go and smash all the crosses in the house? I'm not sure that that's such a great idea. So again, we need to be careful about our passion, but this is generally something we should refrain from.
Just a moment, Lee. I'm really sorry. I need to go now. I won't be able to stay more. I'm passing it to Dan. You're going to be the host now, okay?
Okay, Rabbi,
Dan,
sounds great to
hear
me. Oh, sorry, you need to turn. Okay, yeah, no problem, Rabbi. When Lee's ready to wind down, we will keep this up and running. It's always a joy to be with you, and just know you've got all our prayers, and we'll wind it down and we'll keep it open so Lee can get the questions that he wants, and maybe we'll open up the mic so that they can chat when I wind it down on YouTube and Facebook. You got over 60 viewers so far on YouTube alone.
Okay, fine. So I'll find you in a moment and I'll pass you the. Here it is. Now you're going to be the host, and I need to go. Okay. So bye everybody. Good to see you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Blessings, Rabbi Chaim. Okay, Daniel asks, what if this idol is used to teach others, or just nostalgia, or to show others how this idol is hardly being used anymore? Okay, these are great questions. I can ponder them. Later, and I can, if I don't have the answers, I can try to consult. But I think the general thrust is clear. We want to, as much as possible, and with wisdom at the same time, distance ourselves from these ideas and also from these objects. I think we'll wind it down in a couple of minutes. We'll also try to get through some of the questions. If there are any other pressing questions from the crowd, we'll open it up, and I also have to go a couple minutes early myself. Let's see if we can get to some of these other clauses, and then we'll finish up. Clause 25, Jews are forbidden from making a sculpture in the form of a complete human being, even if only for decoration. However, there's no prohibition to be in a place where an ornamental structure is on display, and it's even permissible to appreciate such a sculpture or as a work of art. And I think this is almost word for word Netzach's question previously about going into certain churches or other places of worship to appreciate them as I don't know if it's a museum now, or to appreciate the architecture, to appreciate the culture behind it, even to study if a person's with one's teacher, even to study the development of that religion. All of these things would kind of fall under, you're not worshiping, you're not even passively participating, but it falls under this, either appreciating it as a work of art or something else to learn from. Okay, I hope that's clear. 26, Jews are forbidden to predict the future by means of magic, to bring about a change in nature through casting spells, to raise the spirits of the dead and communicate with them, spiritualism, or seance, they say in English, or to practice witchcraft in any of its forms. The Torah called these and all similar activities an abomination to the Lord. It's called a to'eva in Hebrew. This word is used in certain other contexts. That's why I'm mentioning it. It's called an abomination.
Can I ask you one question about that specifically, Lee?
Sure.
Where it says change in nature through casting spells. We've seen, developing here in the West since the 60s and forward, weather modification. Okay, and there's a lot of science involved, and there's a lot of hard work involved. The point being, there's a legitimate change in nature in that process of weather modification. And would that use of science would that fall under the casting of spells?
I'm not familiar with weather modification. Can you explain to me even in a couple of sentences what you mean?
Yeah, aluminum, barium, strontium, cloud seeding, and you just warm up the molecules, and it binds with the water molecules, and it holds it in the air. And as long as you keep it heated, it will travel along in the air currents, along with the wind currents, and it gets bigger and bigger, and you can develop to where it drops. And where it drops, you can determine where it drops based on a cooling process. So the water, condenses and drops. It's just the molecules get too heavy to stay in cloud form, and they drop. But in playing around with it too much, a lot of times you get hailstorms, drastic hailstorms. Point being, it's well within the grasp of today's technology, and I guess my question would be more, the use of technology, say slash versus magic or casting spells, similarities. Is there any similarities between, the technological and the magical? Because I know a lot of magic is a lot of sleight of hand in the ancient days, and
right.
so yeah.
We covered an idea. We covered the idea of technology and of human development, of civilization's development.
Right, some is permissible for sure.
In one of the earlier, not only is permissible, it's desirable. As we've said many times in the past, God wants us to be partners in creation, partners in developing His world and using the tools that He gave us to progress mankind. And at the same time, and this is the fine line, to not forget who gave us those tools and who gave us that wisdom. I think what's being referred to here, Dan, is using certain tools, like, as it says here, casting spells, trying to do certain customs, thinking that they have magical power,
right.
Thinking that they have, those forces have control over nature as opposed to God.
Right, the intellectual law. I see.
Yeah, it's attributing independent power to those forces.
No, that clarifies it completely. Thank you.
I hope so. Isn't science considered a religion to some that prefer science over the faith in God? It's a fine line. We should take each idea on a case-to-case basis. Travis asked about science being considered a religion. As we said earlier, just now and earlier in our learning, the Torah is by no means against progression of mankind and advancement technologically, agriculturally, medicine, etc. This advancement, using the tools and the wisdom that God gave us, is a blessing for God. It's like there is a story brought in the Talmud about the sages kind of being involved in the development of the law, and God kind of one of the sages asks, "What do you think God was doing at this time?" And it says God was laughing, and says that my children defeated me. And Rabbi Shirky says, the kind of idea being talked about here is like, when a father, when a son beats his father in basketball, do you think that the father is actually upset? No, that this is what the father wants, that the son should be involved, that the son should be kind of standing on his own 2 feet. So again, to be clear, God wants us to be involved in perfecting his creation, and at the same time not forget that it's he who gave us the tools and the wisdom to do so.
Oh, man.
Okay, let's just finish up this clause. I think there's a few more, but I'm not sure we're going to have time. We'll do a couple minutes, and then we have to wrap up. The Torah called these an abomination, as it's stated in the Torah. Go in perfect trust with the Lord your God. Again, here it's being referred to, not using these magical powers or sorcery, etc., to try to influence things. It's also improper for Noahides to occupy themselves with these activities, even though they are not forbidden according to Noahide law. Okay, so there are many clauses, and again, I highly encourage you all to get a copy of this physically or digitally to review. There are certain things here that are expressly forbidden, even according to the letter of the law, and there are many things here also that are very good concepts to ponder and to bring into one's life, even if they're not according to the letter of the law. So yeah, I think we'll wrap it here, even though we're very close to the end of the chapter.
Lee, do you mind if I just wind it down online, and that way maybe you can take a couple of minutes and open up the mic so that you can actually answer questions?
Great. I don't have the ability to open up the mics though, Dan.
Okay, let me just sign out online, and then we'll go from there. Okay, folks, there you have it, live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg sharing us some Genesis class, and it's been such a joy these last several weeks having Lee Fogel share with us more in depth about the Brit Shalom book. This book is just something I highly encourage everybody to get a copy of. I'm sure we can get you links. I encourage everybody, check it out. It's pocket-sized, and it's easy to digest, and I think you'll clearly understand the Noahide position much more. So we're going to sign out for this week, and personally, I can't do the broadcast next week, so I'm sure Rabbi Goldberg will work it out. I'll chat it out with him, but Hashem willing, we'll be here next week. I'll be back in a couple weeks myself, so till then, folks, have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Is that all, Dan?